Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome once again to another live stream. As I've already spoken to him once before, it feels a bit like deja vu. Here's Chris Gilsenon of Root Home. Chris is a past, present, and future investor in property, specifically with an eye towards social housing, but also a keen commentator on what's going on in the property industry. Earlier today, I'm very pleased to say we had our first PQ property quorum, which is Mind Your P's and Q's. We're talking about everything that's going on with some other specialists. We'll talk more about that later, but welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you.
Stuff is happening. We come to the end of the year. You are full of the joys of spring because you're mopping up, which is great. But the headlines that you've given me, the Bank of England rates have remained the same. So same shit, different day. UK mortgage arrears, however, are a 6-year high. That's not good reading.
No. So the Monetary Policy Committee met today and decided to keep rates the same. So for I think the second or third time on the trot.
Well, we don't want them to go down, do we? We don't want them to go down.
To some extent, a little bit, but not a huge amount.
But you said to me before that if they go down, it creates an artificial environment. So when it goes back up again, suddenly there's universal pain.
There's a balance. There's a balancing act, and they're walking a tightrope. They're a bit of a one-trick pony because it's the only thing they can do to control the inflation after all the money printing they've been doing.
So they push the button or push the brake, isn't it?
It's as basic as that. Yeah. So it's push the button and see what happens. So they kept it the same for the time being, which is great. But the Bank of England doesn't control the mortgage market. There's a correlation between it, but actually it's the swap rates that dictate the mortgage market rates.
Right.
The rates that the banks lend money to each other at. So yeah, at the moment, the banks are really still making hay while the sun shines, and they've got the rates. The fixed rates are the big challenge at the moment. So certainly in the last 12 months, lots of products have been available that have been locking mortgage payers in for long periods of time at extended rates, at rates that maybe 4 or 5% above where they had been paying.
Right.
And that is the writing was on the wall from the time of them doing it, that a number of those people would not be able to afford those repayments going forwards. It's going to be a massive impact on people's disposable income.
I mean, combined with the fact of the point I just made before we actually went on air, that some mortgage lenders are almost pretending like the interest rates have dropped and are creating an environment which is not sustainable to profiteer.
Yes, yeah. It's like I said before we came on our air, the lenders are just really a one-trick pony. They don't know. They're not particularly creative. Their hands are tied in terms of the types of products that they can create. All they know is what they're doing, which is profiteering from a little crisis that happened 12 months ago, and they've continued to profiteer from that particular scenario and dupe a lot of people. So it's not really surprising to me that mortgage arrears are on the increase, the highest they've been for the last 6 years. And
I mean, we're almost talking silly figures, aren't we now?
Yeah, I think at the moment they're up 11%, which, if you look at it as across the whole pool, it's from something like 1.04 to 1.11%, which doesn't sound like a lot. But then if you look at the actual increases, it is substantial. It's a shift. It's a big shift. So it is affecting a small proportion of people, but that is increasing, and that's the trend, and that's the challenge. There is good news. There are some upsides. Not good news.
Go on, please. Some silver linings, please, Chris.
Well, there are different organisations that can help people in that type of circumstance. Now, the predominant way of dealing with it would be to not deal with it, bury your head in the sand, pretend it's not happening. The challenge that you've got though is most people don't realise that even after 1 month of arrears, they are in a repossession process at that point. That the letters don't start like that from the bank. They start nice and fluffy and we're here to help, all that BS. However, they do have a duty of care. Certainly certainly in the residential market, less so in the buy-to-let market, which is not regulated, but the residential market is highly regulated, and they have a duty of care to the mortgagees. They have to help. So if you stick your hand up and say, "Actually, I've got a problem," the sooner you do it, the better off you will be, because you can come to some sort of negotiation with the lender. And if it's a reasonable thing that you're asking of that lender, they can't really reasonably refuse it, because if they then go all the way through the repossession process and in court in front of the judge will say, "Well, why didn't you do this?" And they will slam the lenders if they're not reasonable.
But the headline to me was, after 1 month of arrears, you are in a repo.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you've started
Yeah.
that process. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of
The
people.
bank have started it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And if you bury your head in the sand, we're talking about a world of pain that could end up with you losing your possession and also owing more money and actually being in a negative spiral
Mhm.
out of which it was going to find it hard to climb.
Yeah. Then and the red letters won't start coming until like month 6, month 7, and they'll start getting a bit more aggressive at that point.
Well, it's a bit late by that stage, isn't it, really?
It's getting late. It's getting late. So we've helped people who have been in that process before, and there's a variety of different things that you can do to help people in that position. But as an investor, I've got a variety of different tools that are available to me. So one of them is where we come to an agreement and take over someone's mortgage. That's possible, but it does involve the person moving out of the house. Doing a lease and rent back, or sell and rent back, that's, you have to be regulated to do that, and we're not regulated. But there are different ways to save and rescue people who are in financial difficulties. Is I
Just
guess
ask
where
you
I'm
about
going.
that question. If they, while you're purchasing
Hmm.
and they move out, could
Yeah.
they then move back in effectively as a tenant?
No, that's called a sell and rent back. So that's exactly what you do have to be regulated to do
Right, and
with
you're not,
the
so
FCA.
that wouldn't be available to you.
It's possible. I'm not regulated. I have no interest in being FCA regulated, but there are organisations out there that will help do sell and rent back. The reason that it's now regulated and illegal to do it if you're not regulated is because there are a lot of unscrupulous investors who were saying they would do that, buying the house at a cheap price or agreeing the house at a cheap price, and then not allowing the tenant to move back, or the owner to become the tenant, and renting it at market value or higher. So they were basically just stiffing people. So the FCA said, "Excuse me, let's not do that, and let's regulate this particular section." But I can still structure a deal where we come to a strike price with someone who is in some sort of arrears, um, and it doesn't have to be below market value. It can be above market value
So
potentially, depending on
you're not looking to rip them off and take advantage of their impecunious position to leave them out the house, end up with property your own, and for them to be losing out. What you're talking about is something whereby they get market value.
or above if they need it. Yeah, well, we can have a conversation around removing some of the arrears as well, paying down the arrears. It depends. The critical element is do you need all the money for the property right now? Because if we can delay that sale and offset it, then there's scope for an investor to come in, deliver the strike price at some point in the future, but also be able to make a margin. Obviously, there's no point in an investor getting involved if they
No,
can't
of
make a
course not.
margin.
No.
So
The whole point about an investor getting involved is not to dig you out of the poo you've got yourself into, but to make themselves a profit. But if at the
it's got
same
to be
time,
win-win.
yeah, exactly, there has to be at the same time. There has to be benefit on both sides. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds very positive, because I'm sure there are people out there that are getting themselves into these kind of pickles, and you're saying you may feel like you're 10 red letters into this, and you're thinking there's all you can see is the plug hole and the water sliding inexorably towards it. But you're saying there's a way getting past it, which is
We've helped people on both sides of the coin, I guess. People who they were on the edge of handing the keys back to the bank and just taking the hit. We've been able to offer them more than what they owe to the bank, and just wipe it. So get the slate clean
so
and move
you're not
forward.
just. I'm sorry to labour the point, but you're not just offering them a way about having to give the keys back. They actually end up positive out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Being able to
if anything, it's been a shrewd move for them.
the financial institutions are all wired together to potentially cause you huge amounts of damage to your ability to get lending, and the ability to get lending is kind of pivotal in the system that we operate in.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're taken through the process and worst case scenario made bankrupt, that's a significant impact on your credit file. 7 years bad luck, effectively. And
You become a pariah, effectively, of the lending game.
yeah,
This
yeah.
it's very hard, and if you do get a secured loan or whatever it is, the terms of that security may be very harsh.
Yeah, they will make the next decade of your life very difficult. But there are ways to avoid it, is what I'm saying, and to walk away and hold your head up high and come out like you
So
said, plus.
are you saying that if you look like you're going to become bankrupt, and you feel like any time in the next 10 years you would be wanting to put down money on a house or do any kind of property investment, you should do everything hell bent to try and avoid the bankruptcy? Yes.
You should try. Yeah, you should absolutely try. And there are some people with vested interests who will try to push you down the bankruptcy route. And I'm not a particular advocate of those routes. There are other things that you can do before you get down in the mud.
I suppose if
Um,
you've got a security, if you are in any part ownership of a dwelling, there should be lots of clever ways that you can use that to manipulate it, even if it just using it as an asset and finding someone like yourself to take it on, that you could end up, I wouldn't say quids in, but at least better than net neutral.
Yeah, if there are assets, even assets locked in equity, there's still opportunity. There's still ways to structure something that, if there's value there, it's demonstrating that value to another person.
Sorry to
And there's
derail you
market.
there. I just think it's, if anybody listening at this time of year I know it's a so-called joyful time of year, but also it seems to be the point when relationships get put under scrutiny and pressure, marriages get put under scrutiny and pressure,
Mhm.
divorce is on the rise, let's face it. On top of that, jobs and also mortgage payments, dithering and confusion from the supposed people running our budget on high, can all lead to the fact that you end up becoming almost tunnel vision and not seeing that there is a way past it. I think if I can tentatively say, the good news is yourself or people like yourself can offer a way out that isn't negative, really.
It's a horrible,
Horrible
horrible.
circumstance happening.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
It's a horrible, horrible position to be in, to be trapped with the weight of debt around your neck, and not know where to turn or what to do next. And there are plenty of organisations out there like Step Change, like uh, other voluntary organisations that can help and are a benefit, and you should talk to as well. But they won't necessarily make other options available to you. So that, just bear in mind that if there is value in what you potentially have, if there are assets there, then there's just to find a way to demonstrate that to someone else. Find the
No,
type of people like me who can help.
but
And
you predominantly work in and around the northwest. So I would say if you're in that sort of area, you are in a position, you have a dwelling, ideally multiple floors, a couple of floors at least. If you want some advice, I can think of no one better to give that advice about what options might be outside of what you might be offered through other lenders or step change. Then
Just
I
to,
would say have a chat with Chris.
yeah, just to caveat that, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give you
No,
financial advice.
no,
I
no, no.
can
But you
I
can
can demonstrate what I
identify
would do.
options that you would use,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
instance.
I can talk it through from what I would do as a layman, and how I have helped other people in different situations, because I've helped many other people in that type of shitty situation.
All right. All right. Well, look, can we quickly come together with a summary of your feeling about where we are now, knowing that we are about to pitch into the Christmas season where everything in one part of the world goes crazy, that we're desperately trying to close and get their deals done, and others, I know, legal eagles putting their feet up and getting their pipe and their bowl out. So, what come to a conclusion for me, sir?
Lots
That's
of
where we
people
are
are
now.
lots of people are winding down. Try and find some joy, some holiday joy in the Christmas period. If you are feeling overwhelmed, don't suffer in silence. Do reach out to people. There are people who are ready to listen and will help. But yeah, hope by all means get in touch with me or someone like me. Happy to help.
Or me. Either way, between us, we have a good network of people who can at least give you some advice and some knowledge and some benefit of experience. As I said, Chris is not a registered financial advisor, but what he is a man who's been through an awful lot and helped people just by coming up with creative ideas to get them out of this kind of mucky situation. Chris, once again, thank you very much for a great
Thank you.
conversation. Before we go, want to promote our bi-monthly get together, which is called Property Quorum, or Mind Your P's and Q's, where we're going to be talking about situations to deal with property investing from the legal standpoint, from the search standpoint, and we'll be bringing on board, I believe, some punters and people, everybody in between, who have gone through experiences like this. So if you guys would like to see more of that sort of thing, make sure to watch. It'll be next Thursday. Trying to work out what time it's going to be. We'll promote it before that time. So on Monday, I'll be putting out when the time it's actually going to be. But please do watch out for that. Chris, once again, a great pleasure. And I wish everybody safe and joyful times through the Christmas period. And of course, good mental health. Bye-bye now.